There comes a point where you just get annoyed at seeing a ton of historic misconceptions that you just need to let it all out. Today is the day, and now is the time. Let's get started. Number 1. Sub-Saharan Africa didn't develop a writing system. This claim is often used to justify European colonialism as a means of civilizing Africa by pointing out that they were so unintelligent that they didn't create a writing system. Even though writing is not some kind of sign of intelligence, it's just a tool and some people just didn't need that tool. You're also comparing sub-Saharan Africa, which is like 25 million square kilometers in area, with the rest of Europe. Let's just make this comparison. The Russian Empire, at its height, was around 23 million square kilometers with multiple ethnic groups in it, and people can acknowledge that, but not for Africa. Then there's the actual claim itself. There were certainly writing systems in sub-Saharan Africa. Ge'ez, for example, is the liturgical language of Ethiopian Christianity, with their own writing tradition, including manuscripts and monastics. We have record from the 4th century AD that Ge'ez was used on monuments. For reference, the Coptic script as we know it developed in Egypt around the 2nd century AD. Number 2. The Chinese didn't develop guns. There seems to be this misconception that the Chinese didn't develop guns despite making gunpowder. Of course, they'll say, yes, they developed the cannon, but not the gun. There's this odd belief about it. The hand cannon has been in use for a while. In fact, the Song Dynasty era hand cannons have years and serial numbers attached to them, meaning that they were standardized. We also have record from the Ming Dynasty that the matchlock musket was a thing, and since these were from manuals, it means that they were standardized and not just some random inventor in his shack. We also have at least one depiction of a flintlock in use, meaning that, again, this is a manual, not some guy's diary in a shack. These were somewhat common enough to justify writing down. Number 3. The Union initially fought the Civil War to end slavery. As much as this hurts, the Union in the Civil War initially fought the Confederates to preserve the Union. However, during the war, motivations changed to free the slaves. Yes, motivations can change during a war, especially when you have tons of former slaves enlist in the army to fight the slavers. Speaking of changing motivations, the Confederates had their motivations change from preserving and expanding the institution of slavery to trying to save their own skins. Number 4. Cortés defeated the Aztec Empire with superior technology. The superior technology of Cortés is often overstated. Technology alone does not win wars. I'm sure you understand that from the many guerrilla conflicts that have happened in the past 30 years. Superior logistics win wars, and Cortés had plenty of angry natives with bones to pick with the Aztec Empire to provide those logistics. Number 5. The Noble Savage. The Noble Savage is a racist caricature that said that these people were in harmony with nature and untainted by civilization. Some will claim that they never used more than they needed, which is blatantly false. And others go so far as to claim that Native Americans possessed supernatural abilities, which is just plain stupefying. In reality, we had plenty of indigenous peoples who had things like cities, civilizations, and did some quite impressive terraforming at the time. The aforementioned Aztecs, for example. Even nomadic Native Americans get romanticized into the noble savage, which is hilarious when you realize the Mongolic and Turkic peoples were never afforded the same level of romanticization, instead being denounced as raiding hordes from the east. The noble savage stereotype is just a polite way to infantilize Native Americans and ignore their problems because they still exist to this day. Number 6. There was no anti-Semitism in the Middle East before Israel. This is a common talking point I've seen brought up. This also ignores a ton of history. Let's ignore the highly segregated society that the Ottoman Empire was with their millet system, which was basically segregation based off confessional lines. The Ottoman Empire ruled the Middle East and had enough contact with the rest of Europe, and ideas such as anti-Semitism did spread between the two. One such idea was blood libel, the idea that Jews ritually kill children to bake into bread. This was professed in the Middle East as well as the rest of Europe. Side note, I never understood this because the Jewish religion won't let people consume blood, and suddenly they're deciding to put it in their bread, which makes zero sense. But anyways, pogroms existed through the Middle East. Damascus in 1840 had one over blood libel. Ottoman-era Rhodes also had a pogrom around the same time, over blood libel. Even Iran, which had a pogrom in 1910 about blood libel, even though they were not ruled by the Ottomans. Ideas spread, and there was plenty of anti-Semitism to go around. Number 7. Mulan was a real person. No, Mulan is folklore. Next. Number 8. America was founded as a Christian nation. Oh boy, this is going to rile up the comments. No, America was not founded as a Christian nation. It took the most steps to be treated as anything but. George Washington's full title was President of the United States of America. His contemporaries in France, Austria, and Russia had their titles beginning with "By the Grace of God." Even the earliest seals of the US didn't have "In God We Trust" in them. Instead, they had "E Pluribus Unum." There's ample evidence to support that the Founding Fathers wanted a secular state, but my point is clear. In an era where people ruled by the grace of God, and in the cases of the Qing dynasty and the emperors under the Tokugawa shogunate, they were gods in and of themselves. America glaringly omits any religious pretenses when it comes to their state and their titles. Number 9. The chart. I'm going to be real with you. I don't understand how anyone could actually believe this chart. For starters, the idea that Christianity is the reason science didn't advance across the world is unfounded nonsense. Some variants flat out say that we would be exploring space by now. Were the scientists of the Indian subcontinent non-existent? I mean, they were only able to be fractionally off when it came to calculating the exact rotation of the Earth. Or what about the movable type, which allowed books and material to be printed readily in China? Or algebra being created in the Islamic world? This chart is Eurocentric nonsense. Number 10. Oh boy, this one's going to cause controversy. Races are real. No, race as we define it is about as real as the English language. In other words, it's a dynamic social construct rather than some kind of fixed scientific definition like hydrogen gas. Race is useless in medicine. If a cholera infection were to break out in a given area, your race is useless when it comes to determining how you'll get hospitalized. Your blood type is a better indicator. A, B, and AB will get infected, but you won't end up in a hospital bed as quickly as people with type O blood. Likewise, malaria will be a little bit less painful for you if you have type O blood, but if you have AB or AB blood, it's going to be a bit more painful. Likewise, it's possible to organ match with someone from different races. Likewise, twins can be completely different races. Race as a medical category is absolutely useless. The only time it does have any use is when it comes to sociology. That's it for this video. Please consider liking, subscribing, tipping the channel on Ko-fi. This is Cyril signing off.